This Chicklet Orange Esperanza from Proven Winners is such a versatile plant. It grows both in full sun and part shade, and it also adds so much interest because it has these orange trumpeted flowers.
Hi, we're Sean and Allison from Spoken Garden, and we're here to help you become a better gardener.
Hey guys, it's Friday, and you know what that means.
Woo!
It's Plant Chat Friday. Woo!
Every Friday we feature a different plant from around our yard just to help you learn about it better in case you're growing in your own yard.
Yep. Today we're going to focus in on the Chicklet Orange Esperanza, also known as just trumpet bush or even just Esperanza, depending on where you live and how it's talked about.
I know, it has a ton of names.
It
here.
does, yeah.
So before we get going, we're going to first give you some basic plant care facts and how to grow it, and then we're going to talk about how to use it in your garden.
Yep. So let's go show you.
Yeah.
So guys, without further ado, here is our Chicklet Orange Esperanza. This beautiful plant right here. Isn't this gorgeous? So first off, just the facts, right? So we're going to talk to you about how to grow this plant in your garden. So it'll grow in zones 8A to 11B. It's a perennial in those zones. Now we live in zone 8B, so this is perfect for us. And this is a deciduous shrub. It kind of has a little bit of a fern look to its leaves. If you step back, it has a little bit of a fern look to it, so it can add some texture. Now, this plant is versatile because it'll grow in full sun conditions and in part shade, so it'll fit some different growing conditions in a lot of different gardens. It fits well in our garden because right now, from the beginning of the morning till about right now, about noon or a little after, it's in pretty much full shade. But after that, it gets full intense sun for the rest of the day for 6 or 7 hours. So it does really well under those conditions. Now, it likes to be in slightly higher pH soils, meaning a little bit more alkaline soils. So if you have slightly acidic or more acidic soils, you're going to need to increase that pH with some lime or something else. Now, it also likes well-draining fertile soil, so it needs some type of soil that has some sand in it, some topsoil, and some organic matter. So try to have that in your soil in your garden if you're going to grow these plants. Also, it's a great plant because it just needs like moderate watering. It doesn't need really, really wet soils all the time. So, and this is even when you're getting it established. After it's established, after that first year out in your garden, it's really drought tolerant, so it doesn't need to be watered all the time. So that's even better. This is a really tough plant. And so also what's great about this plant is it doesn't need to be deadheaded. It'll self deadhead itself. The flowers will just fall off by themselves. You can come through and deadhead it if you want to keep it tidy and keep the rest of your garden looking good. Another cool feature about this Chicklet Orange Esperanza is that when it flowers, it starts to flower from the lower part of a stem because it has this cluster, this stem, this spike almost of flowers that come up, and each flower starts developing, and the flowers develop from the base and they develop up in maturity. So the first ones open further down closer to the base, and as time goes by and these flowers get older, the newer ones will start to develop, and then they'll open up and flower up top on this spike where the other ones down below will wither and die or form seed if they get fertilized. And you can see right here we've got some newer ones coming in. They're almost about ready to open, and then we've got brand new ones just forming right now, and the plant's still developing those on a cellular level. It's beautiful. Now, another great thing about this plant is it'll actually flower in the beginning of spring, through spring, into summer, through summer, and into the fall. So it blooms for a really long time. And you can see it's got these trumpeted shaped flowers, and they're super bright orange. And the hummingbirds love this plant. It's an attractor of hummingbirds. It's also deer resistant, so that makes it even better because we have deer in our area, not specifically in our garden, but we know they're in the area. So even if the deer come through our garden, we know they'll be fine. They won't get eaten by them. Now guys, I haven't told you the full size of this plant at maturity. This plant will get anywhere from 3 to 6 feet tall, and it'll get 3 to 4 feet wide. So it has some range, it has some actual size to it, but interestingly enough, this is a more compact plant than what's actually out there, the other plants that are out there. This is considered more compact, so that's pretty cool. Now, also you want to think about when to fertilize this plant, and so you can give it fertilizer almost any time of year, especially when it's actively growing and it needs those nutrients. A good time release fertilizer like Dr. Earth's time release pellets. That's a great fertilizer to use, and the link will be down below. You can also give it a liquid fertilizer if you want to, like the one we use from Fox Farms, but you'll have to give that to it a lot more, higher frequency than the time release. So just something to think about, whatever works for your gardening schedule. And lastly, guys, if you can, try and mulch around this plant. You can see our plant right here, it's reacting really well to that mulch, this mulch we have around it. It's arborist mulch, it's a naturally sourced mulch. It's reacting really well. It's got its roots insulated, the moisture is being held longer in around those roots, and so it has a more consistent moisture, more consistent moisture it can bring into it, and it's just a really good thing to break down. That mulch is really good to have it break down and filter down every time it gets watered into the soil to create more organic matter in the soil and have that soil structure. So.
All right, you guys, my turn to talk about some stuff. This is such a cool plant, and Sean just gave you some basic care and growing conditions and some things that we're expecting with this plant, because I don't know if he mentioned yet that this is a very young plant. It's only been in this bed for probably 2 or 3 months. So it has already doubled in size, which is so cool to watch, because we're now seeing what we predicted when we planted it. And with that, you can start thinking about how to maybe add this to your own garden beds and how to use it in your climate, because it kind of depends on what kind of climate you have, meaning your hardiness zone. Sean already told you that this plant is hardy from 8A to 11B. So in those warmer zones, we have a few more options, I guess, as to how to use it in the landscape. We can use it like we have here in this garden bed, surrounded by a lot of other perennials. We'll talk about the companion plants in just a minute. This plant, this Chicklet Orange, can also be used as a focal point, like just a centerpiece almost of either a garden bed or even a container maybe. You can also use it in borders, maybe in edges along kind of a walkway. If you're in a cooler climate that's lower than 8A, you probably want to keep it in a container, because either you're going to have to treat it as an annual, or you could maybe hopefully move it inside over the colder months and then move it back out, as long as you've got the space and the right conditions for that. So that maybe gives you some options of how to use it. Like I said, we planted this here in this bed surrounded by all of these other perennials. So let's talk about that. Companion plants. So here you can see we've got a very young English lavender. We've got another one right there. Those are going to grow and get very large, but this plant will get taller than that. That's why we planted these in front. So again, this plant will grow to a height of about 3 to 6 feet. So we're talking, it could get very tall here in this space. We've got some coneflowers, we've got some annuals in the front there, and behind me here we've got this lilac tree, and this is pretty young too, so it's going to keep growing and getting taller. So we don't want this to ever shade out this plant, so we'll keep this pruned up a little bit. So for other companion planting ideas, just think of plants that can tolerate full sun to partial shade like this plant can, and just kind of keep in mind spacing. Like we did. You can see things are spread very far apart in here, but we're expecting that mature size. So we always plan for that. So Sean already talked about these really awesome tubular shaped flowers, and that's probably one thing that maybe drew you to this plant. I know that's for us, that's something that we were excited about, because we're always looking for hummingbird attracting plants. They love this plant. So this is a great option for a pollinator garden. It's like Sean said already, it's drought tolerant. It has a lot of awesome features that you might want to consider. Another cool thing about the flowers of this plant is they bloom for a really long time. Like Sean said, they're a continuous bloomer or just a really long bloomer. So that's another reason why we paired them with lavender, another very long blooming perennial, as well as coneflowers. So all of these plants will, once they're more mature and they're growing and they're full size, they'll just bloom and bloom forever and have a ton of color up here. Before we're finished here, we want to show you, we have one other Chicklet Orange Esperanza planted in our yard in a partial shade bed. So we want to show you the differences of that plant. So let's head over there. Okay, you guys, we're over in what we call our dry shade garden, and we've got a second Esperanza planted right here. You can see it's a little bit smaller than the other one, and there's several reasons for that. This actually got planted earlier, but it also went through, we had some crazy intensive heat right after this got planted that we weren't expecting. So we did our best to kind of protect it as best we could, but it had some transplant shock. So you can see there's a little bit of yellowing down here, but these are the older leaves and we're seeing tons of new growth, very green, healthy up top. So that's what we are focused on for now. So we've got those beautiful trumpet flowers right here. One thing I want to point out with this plant is we've got some cool things going on. We can see the seed pods. So all of these flowers that got fertilized are now turning into seed and they look like little beans almost. Don't eat them though. But we're going to collect these and actually see if we can experiment with those a little bit and see if we can grow our own plants. So that's kind of fun. So we're very happy with this plant, you guys. Highly recommend it for your own garden, and there's so many ways to use it.
Yeah, so guys, that is Chicklet Orange Esperanza. What a beautiful
I know,
plant.
we hope you like that.
Yeah.
We love it.
We feel so fortunate to have it in our garden. If you want it in your garden too, go to provenwinners.com.
Yeah, and you can buy the plant right now online at Proven Winners and have it shipped directly to your house. So that's cool.
Yep. And so guys, if you have any comments or questions, please leave them down below for us. We love hearing from you. And make sure to subscribe if you haven't already to our channel so you get updates on our latest videos.
So thank you guys for being here on today's Friday Plant Chat. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.
Yep. See you next video.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.